2, 1. Please start, sir.
A very good evening to all of you. So once again, after a gap of maybe a few days, because we were having our pre-final examinations at the department at SMS. And so we have come back with our teaching class. Today, we have a case discussion of an infertile couple. And we would soon start the case discussion. Today, the first-year resident, Dr. Sandeep Desai, is going to present the case, and the third-year resident, Dr. Anand Vijay, he would be there for the discussion. And Dr. Ajay Raj Singh Hada, who is our medical officer in our department, he would be the moderator of the session. So today we have two special invitees with us. Dr. Pramod Krishnappa, he is consultant at the head of Andrology Division, Department of Urology at New Hospitals, Bangalore. He has done many fellowships. One is at Madrid, Spain for penile implants, then European Urology Scholarship Program in Belgrade, and also in Chicago with Niederberger. So welcome, Dr. Pramod. Thank you for sparing your valuable time and taking part in our teaching session.
Thank you, sir.
Next invitee today with us is Colonel Amit Agarwal. He did his DNB Urology from Army Hospital, and he has a lot of achievements, including NDP Kearney Rolling Trophy, then gold medal for general surgery. I would request everybody to kindly mute yourself, please. And then Dr. H.S. Bhatt, gold medal for DNB Urology. He was the best reviewer for Indian Journal of Urology in 2017 and then in 2019. And he's also a member of the editorial board of Indian Journal of Urology. He is also part of the guidelines committee of male infertility. So welcome, Amit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. Thank you. So now I would request Dr. Ajay Raj, our moderator, to kindly invite our presenters. Dr. Ajay, please.
Good evening, everyone. Today, Dr. Sandeep Desai will present a case discussion.
Right. Dr. Sandeep, please go ahead and share your presentation.
Sandeep?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, is my screen is visible?
Yes, yes.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, respected teachers, my seniors and my colleagues. Today, sir, I am presenting a case of male infertility. Sir,
Sandeep, make it full screen, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, my patient is 35-year gentleman working in private job, resident of Jaipur, presented to urology OPD with chief complaint of unable to father a child for 6 years. The patient was married for 8 years and there is no previous marriage history. Patient is actively trying for pregnancy for 6 years. Patient's wife is 32-year healthy female with gravida 0, para 0, with regular 28 days menstrual cycle. Patient having coital frequency of 3 to 5 times a week. Sir, there is also history of occasional dysuria for 3 to 4 years. Sir, in negative history, patient having no history of erectile dysfunction, delayed or premature ejaculations, recent febrile illness, sexually transmitted diseases, retrograde ejaculation, previous medical or surgical illness, occupational exposure to heat or radiation, tobacco, alcohol or other drugs, contraceptive use or lubricant use, no history of testicular trauma, and no treatment history or abortion or miscarriage in female partner. There is no childhood pathology like cryptorchidism or torsion or testicular tumors. In past history, patient having no TB, diabetes, hypertension, asthma. There is no history of surgery. In personal and sexual history, so there is no history of smoking, tobacco chewing, alcohol or any other drug consumption. Bowel habit and sleep cycle is normal. No history of masturbation and coital frequency is 3 to 5 per week. Patient wife having regular 28 days menstrual cycle, and there is no previous miscarriage or abortion. So there is no history of infertility in any of family member. So my history part is over.
Just stop here. I would request now the Dr. Anand Vijay to ask Sandeep if you want something else in the history, and I would request our invitees, Dr. Pramod and Dr. Amit, also to give their comments in the if they find something to suggest in the history, or if they want to ask Dr. Anand Vijay. Go ahead, please, both of you.
Thank you, sir.
See if I can just ask him. If you can come back to the slides of the negative history.
First of all, let us ask Dr. Anand Vijay to ask if he wants something more in the history.
Correct.
Yes.
Fine.
Anand, if you want to have something more in the history, just go ahead.
Yes, sir. Patient has it looks primary male infertility in this case, and patient has also complained of dysuria, sir. So I want to ask about any history of hematospermia, chronic pelvic pain, or what time dysuria is there, sir? How much time patient is having recurrent urinary tract infection or anything else regarding dysuria, sir? I just want to ask about more, sir.
Okay, Sandeep,
Yes,
is
sir,
there
patient-
any other urinary symptoms?
No, sir. Patient have only history of slight irritation or burning micturition around 3 to 4 every 3 to 4 months or 5 months. Sir, there is no history of urinary tract infection or fever or hematospermia or hematuria.
So, Anand, there is no other urinary symptoms. It's just occasional dysuria.
Anything development delay in previous in childhood times? Secondary sexual character is okay with this patient. Is anything delay in he knows about he took any medication for at the age of puberty and also?
No, sir. There was no history of any medication for any of development abnormality or any of pathology for which he was taking at the time of puberty or any other time in the past. Patient only have a medication for occasional dysuria and nothing for other pathology.
Okay, so then okay, sir.
Right. Dr. Amit, go ahead. What you were asking? Just go
Okay.
ahead.
I would ask Dr. Anand Vijay that why would a history of recent febrile illness was taken by the first year resident here? I mean, how is that important in this case?
Sir, we know the transient oligospermia and azoospermia, which can affect the spermatogenesis, sir. Any febrile episode can affect spermatogenesis, any anxiety, psychological arousal disorders, any desire disorders can be there with acute febrile illness, sir. It can affect the fertility, sir.
No, we are talking about a patient who has a 6-year history of primary infertility. So with a patient of 6 years history, a recent febrile illness, is it of importance?
No, sir. It's, not,
Actually, you can't
as much
justify this.
important.
You can't justify this. A patient who was presented to us for 6 years, you can't justify this statement of yours. The second thing I want to know is the retrograde ejaculation. How would you take a history of retrograde ejaculation from a patient who presents to you with infertility?
Usually patient with retrograde ejaculation complain with the dry ejaculation, sir, and they also may complain post coital urine may be, sir, milky, sir, and maybe, sir, lubricant like material comes with urine, sir. Usually they
Would you also take history of any medications which the patient is taking?
Yes, sir.
Is that missing? Is that missing in this history?
Yes, sir. Some alpha blockers and antipsychotic medication, especially PCA and SSRI, may cause retrograde ejaculation, sir. Anything medication? These are medications usually related with retrograde ejaculation, sir.
No, I'm talking about history of medications in a patient who was presented to you with infertility as a whole, not only for retrograde ejaculation per se.
Sir, patients sometimes take exogenous testosterone, sir. Steroids may be there, sir. And some antibiotic, chronic PPI inhibitor, sulfasalazine, colchicine also may impair, sir, erection and problem.
Any other history which you think is missing from this negative history slide which is being projected on the screen?
So, either patient have chronic pelvic pain, sir, and any history of hematospermia and
I would also be interested in knowing, he just talked about cryptorchidism or torsion or testicular
Yes.
tumor. I would in fact would like to bring out any history of any kind of a surgery on the scrotum, in the scrotum or the testis would be important to be brought out here.
yes, sir. Sir, like childhood hernia surgery, which is very common, which can affect vagal obstruction. There are so many
Absolutely.
complications.
Absolutely.
There may be hydrocele surgery history, varicocele surgery history may be there, sir.
Absolutely. So any inguinoscrotal surgeries should form a part of your negative history, whether in childhood or even in adulthood. Back to you, sir.
Dr. Pramod,
Yeah.
if you have, yes.
Yeah,
please, go ahead.
yeah, just one comment in this negative history. I think the recent febrile illness, maybe I would go with the presenter. Basically, if somebody presents with a recent fever, history of recent fever, maybe if he might say that I had a fever last week, then we might tell them, the patients, to postpone giving the semen analysis. Because as we know that recent febrile fever can cause semen abnormalities. So if that is the case, if the patient says last week I had high-grade fever, then we may tell that you may give the semen analysis after 1 or 2 weeks. Maybe that is why he might have taken that history. So I feel that should be okay.
Right, exactly. I also feel that there is a history of recent febrile illness should be taken in almost every patient, because first of all, you are dealing with an infertile couple, right? You still do not know whether the male partner is infertile or the female partner is infertile. You still don't know whether this is oligospermic or azoospermic. So oligospermic may actually present as azoospermia if there is a recent history of febrile illness. So there are so many things in which the febrile illness may affect the semen parameters, right? So definitely we should take semen recent history of febrile illness. And as Dr. Pramod said, we might postpone the semen analysis for a few weeks till it is almost 8 to 12 weeks. Or at least we should think this semen analysis report with that febrile episode in our mind, right? So again, I think in this history, a little bit more about the infertility should be taken, right? The duration, and if there is any history of abortion, if there is any history of pregnancy during this 6 years, or in the past, he has already said about that he was not. This is his first marriage only. If had it been second marriage, any child or any pregnancy with the previous partner, that is again important. Any history of use of spermicidal jellies and all those things, again, they are important. So take this infertility history in detail, and then about if the patient, then you should need to ask about the sexual history, which should be again the desire part, the erection part, and the ejaculation part. ejaculation part, probably not just a retrograde ejaculation, whether he is having any pain during ejaculation, what about his volume of the ejaculate, whether it is just a few drops or is having one or two teaspoonful of ejaculate. So that is important to know about what is the exact volume of the ejaculate. So all these things are important in the history taking. Sandeep, right?
Yes, sir.
So now, Anand Vijay, you also missed that. You should have asked about the ejaculate, any painful ejaculation. You asked about hematospermia, right? But painful ejaculation, the volume of ejaculate, right? All these things are very important. So go ahead and Anand, what would you do in the history examination part?
Sir, I will do sir general physical examination first of all for the secondary sexual character, and then I will go with this local examination, especially genitalia and DRE. Sir.
Right. So before we will go, whenever you are taking a history of an infertile male, ideally the female partner also should be there, and you should take a proper history from the female partner also, right? So whether she was investigated, whether she was treated, any other problem, not only just the menstrual history, which may be regular, but you should take a proper detailed history from the female partners. So go ahead and Sandeep, tell about the examination findings.
So in general physical examination, sir, patient is conscious, cooperative, and oriented to time, place, and person. Patient is well built and nourished. BMI is 23.4. A patient is afebrile with pulse rate is 76 per minute. Blood pressure is 126 by 80. So respiratory is 12. So there is no pallor, icterus, clubbing, cyanosis, pedal edema, and lymphadenopathy. Sir, in systemic examination, sir, RS, CVS, and CNS, no abnormality detected. Sir, per abdomen is soft, non-tender. There is no scar mark of any surgery in abdomen. Sir, in local examination, sir, examination of general external genitalia, there is no abnormality in penis or micropenis. Sir, there is left epididymal cyst present approximately 5 into 3 centimeter. And right epididymis nodular at lower end. Bilateral testicles present in scrotum and bilateral vas present and thickened. So pubic hair and scrotal hairs are present, and scrotal and penile skin tanner is present. So there is no evidence of varicocele on either side. So in perineal examination, sir, meatus is normal and no abnormal discharge per urethra. No swelling or lesion noted. Perineal sensation present. So on digital rectal examination, anal winking was present. Anal tone is normal and bulbocavernous reflex present. Prostate is not enlarged and cystic lesion palpable just above the prostate of approximately 3 centimeters.
Go back. Anand, do you want anything else in the history and the examination finding?
There is an epididymal cyst, sir.
No, that is fine. Whatever is written there, it is fine. You want something else which is missing, or you want to examine something more and ask Sandeep about that finding?
I want a detailed examination of epididymal cyst, sir, and in the prostate, midline prostatic cyst, also it is painful. I just want to know it is painful or it is painless. It is that's all, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, on DRE, sir, there was no pain or tenderness while pressing the midline cyst. And sir, cyst is approximately 5 into 3 centimeter of size, and present in left testis.
So he has already said about the left epididymal cyst, which is of this size. It is painless. Right epididymis is nodular, and the midline cyst, which he has felt on a rectal examination. Right? Anything else you want to know? If no, then I would invite Dr. Pramod and Amit to please go ahead and just. Dr. Pramod, yes.
Yes, sir. I feel the examination part is almost complete. But maybe since I know this is an exam presentation, but do we really need to include that CNS RS examination, sir? Maybe we don't examine that as a routine, but as an exam case, maybe I think that's.
It is just because it is an examination case. That's why we agree. Otherwise,
I think he's already commented on the CNS examination being normal as such.
Yeah, yes.
So in the previous slide, is already said so.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And what about any do we need to bring out that secondary sexual characters are well developed, because that part was missing even in general physical examination, that was not there.
Right, right. So only he has written about the pubic hairs present. I think
Yes.
the secondary sexual characters should be more elaborately examined. And
a note about gynecomastia, sir.
Yes, yes, that's true. Perfect.
Absolutely.
So Sunday, Anand, you have missed one is the secondary sexual characters should be properly examined, and including gynecomastia, right? And secondly, what you have missed is about the testicles. Testicles are very important in infertility evaluation. So it not only just saying that they are present in the scrotum, you have to actually examine the testicles, tell about their size, the consistency, the surface, everything, right?
The sensations and all of this.
Sensation, everything. So it's very important that you examine the testicles in a very detailed manner. So Sandeep, you should tell about the size of the testicles. You should tell us about any other abnormality if you have found on the testicles.
Yeah, ideally, test examination, one should use a calipers, or simple tape is also fine. When I was doing my fellowship in Chicago, we should have to carry a caliper that was there in the department. So we had to measure the testis size of each patient, because one of the landmark papers, the testicular size and the FSH in correlating with the azoospermia was published by Heidelberg. So 4.6 centimeter less than 2 centimeter high FSH values are used to
request others to please mute. Dr. Deepak Sharma, please mute yourself. Yes. So you are right. And Dr. Pramod and Dr. Amit, let me tell you, we are doing a study presently in our department where we are actually looking at the measurement of testicles by Prader's oxidometer, by calipers, by ultrasonography, and then comparing it with the standard water displacement method, right? So we are actually taking these patients of bilateral orchidectomy for carcinoma prostate, and then we are actually measuring the volume by water displacement method, which is the gold standard, and then comparing it with the ultrasonic volume, the caliper volume, and the Prader's oxidometer. So that's the study being going on in our department.
Very good, sir. That would be a good reference point from the Indian perspective, because we don't have the diameters of our Indian patients, sir. Right. Because we all follow the Western literature and we say 4.6 is normal, but I don't think any of our patients have that big testis in India.
Exactly, exactly. So as volume also, there is, I think 25 ml probably is very uncommon to find. And usually it is 15 to 20 ml maximum, right? Yes. So Anand Vijay, you missed that on that. Probably it is very important to know about the testicle size, consistency, or any abnormality. Then epididymis should be also properly examined. Then the spermatic cords should be properly examined. Not only varicocele, you have to examine the whole cord, and you have to examine the varicocele both in supine and standing position with Valsalva maneuver, etc. That is again very important part of male infertility evaluation. So I think all these things are very important to be examined.
And one more thing, so since he has mentioned that vas is thickened,
yes,
we do not know whether if this patient has something like a sort of beaded vas and also having a tuberculosis component also, maybe to be kept that also in the background.
Right. So when you say thickened vas, you should say exactly whether it is thickened throughout or there it is some abnormalities. As he said, there is a beaded or it has a nodular appearance or not. That should be properly examined. I think that yes. So so this was about the local examination. So now Anand, what do you think about the case?
Sir, it's a young 35-year-old patient presented with primary infertility, having the left epididymal cyst and right nodular epididymis with midline prostatic cyst, sir.
Right. So now what would you do?
Sir, I would like to go with semen examination, sir. Semen analysis, sir, first of all, sir.
Okay.
With,
so so how would you counsel the patient, and what would you ask the patient for semen analysis?
Sir, for the semen analysis, I would say to patient about it should be done with 2 to 5 days abstinence, sexual abstinence, or any masturbation abstinence should be there. There should be no application of lubricants and all on the penis and all. Semen should be contained collect in the white bore sterile container. It should be packed tightly, and it should be sent laboratory as early as possible, sir. And
right. So any comment from Pramod?
Do not use the term as early as possible. 2 hours may be as early as possible for somebody, and 30 minutes. So usually, ideally, it should reach the lab within 30 minutes. So my question to you is, what if the patient asks you that, sir, I cannot do this semen test in the hospital. Can I go to any nearby place? Can I book a hotel and can I give it back? So is it okay?
Yes, sir. Is it okay, sir? We can allow the patient, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a medical legal point to this. The patient might get somebody else's semen and give you back. So, I mean, I know it can happen in the hospital also, but that one point you need to be a little careful, because that is not under our control.
Absolutely.
Right. Amit, any comment on that?
Not really, sir. We can proceed.
Okay. So, and one comment from my side about you said about the masturbation, right? In the history also, you said there is no history of masturbation and all that. So Sandeep, again, even if there was a history of masturbation, how does it affect the infertility evaluation? So this point, why did this point come in the history that he has no history of masturbation?
So if
why did you ask about masturbation?
Sir, if there is some.
So again, let me tell you this. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I would request just hold on. Please, the technical team, please mute others except the 5 of us. Technical team, please mute others.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So
sir.
reduce the disturbance as much as possible. Right. So Sandeep, why did you ask about masturbation?
Sir, if some patient having masturbate for more than one time or multiple time, sir, there is a negative effect of ejaculation during the intercourse, or maybe for that.
Okay. So again, then you need not say about that as masturbation. You might have said that multiple times of ejaculation might affect the sperm count if you do a semen analysis, particularly if the patient is an subfertile patient, and if he is oligospermic, that might affect the count, right? But in the usual, if it is a normal person, it would not affect. How many times, even if he masturbates, that doesn't, or ejaculates, it would not affect. So don't say about masturbation. It gives a misconception that masturbation probably is affecting his health or affecting his fertility or his sexual function. So don't bring in that masturbation as such. You can bring in ejaculation, how many times he ejaculated, etc.
And
that is
also
okay,
the fact,
but don't
also the fact that when we ask the patient to submit the semen sample for analysis, we tell them we advise them an abstinence for 2 to 5 days. So that is also taken care of. This particular problem would be taken care of then.
Right. So again, this abstinence 2 to 5 days, again, that is again debatable. There was one discussion in the West Zone conference and West Zone seminar webinars, where we discussed about whether abstinence of 2 to 5 days is important. Again, they say that 1 to 3 days is good enough. So you need not extend it up to 5 days. So again, this is a debatable point. So abstinence, even see the Semen report. Sandeep, go ahead with the Semen report.
Yes, sir. Sir, we have 2 semen analysis report of patient. In first sample, sir, volume is 0.5 ml. There was no sperms found, and pH of semen is 7. And in second specimen, sir, volume is also 0.5 ml. No sperm found, and pH is 7.1. Sir, in hormonal profile, sir, serum testosterone level.
Just stop here. Go back. Anand,
Yes, sir.
come in.
Yes, sir. So this semen analysis report showing
Anand?
there. Yes, sir.
Anand, so you have, yes, so 2 semen analysis report, and they have been done at just a 2 to 3 weeks interval, and both of them show azoospermia. And what else can you see on the semen report?
Sir, pH
Just
is
tell us.
acidic, sir. Acidic azoospermia, sir. This is an low volume. Volume is also low, sir.
Where is it acidic? Why 7 is acidic?
Why do you call it
So-
acidic?
So 7 or 7.2 less than maybe.
As per WHO, what cutoff point is taken as acidic pH?
So less than 7, sir.
No, it's more than 7.2.
7.2.
So more than 7.2 will be alkaline, right?
Alkaline. This
Sir.
is,
Yes, Dr.
So
Amit.
less than 7.2. Sorry. Generally,
Yes,
it is
yes.
alkaline. Generally, it is alkaline. So less than
Right.
7.2, it is. So this is perfect. Sorry.
Okay. So and what, anything else you are seeing in the report?
so low volume is low volume, sir. Semen volume is
Right,
also low,
right.
sir.
So low volume ejaculate and azoospermia. Pramod, any comment from your side?
Yeah. Do you want to ask the fructose levels? One thing. And is it really feasible to do the fructose level in this small sample of semen? And is it really an indicator of whether to differentiate between obstructive or non-obstructive? 3 questions.
So
Anand?
with this volume, we use usually Salinity test for the fructose analysis, sir. This volume is low, sir, and it is very difficult to do with this volume, sir. But if there is fructose is negative absent, we can say there may be the seminal vesicle aplasia, or maybe the ejaculate duct obstruction. It may differentiate, sir, between different low volume, different cause of low volume semen, sir.
Yeah, so you're partly right. Basically, it is non-specific. So we usually don't depend too much on the estimation of the fructose levels in the semen test nowadays. Because initially it used to be if fructose is absent, then it is obstructive and all those. But those theories don't hold good nowadays. I mean, we don't really depend on the fructose levels.
Right. So agreed, Pramod. Only thing is that fructose test can be done even with a low volume ejaculate. We do a modified Selivanov test, right? So we dilute the Selivanov chemical agent and then do it, and it is possible in many of these patients. Secondly, fructose test, as Dr. Pramod said, may not be very specific for this congenital absence of bilateral vas or ejaculatory duct obstruction, because in absence of vas difference also sometimes the seminal vesicles may be present. It is not that always it is absent. Sometimes it may be hypoplastic also. So almost I think 20 to 30% cases you may find seminal vesicles with congenital absence of vas difference. So that's why it is not that specific for absence of vas difference. Again, so coming to the low volume ejaculate, again, then you are now, I will ask you, what are the causes for low volume ejaculate?
Sir, there may be, sir, inadequate sample collection, sir. There may be retrograde ejaculation, hypogonadotropic hypogonadism, ejaculatory duct obstruction, congenital absence of vas, or there may be accessory gland dysfunction, sir, maybe there.
Right. So one is the improper collection. Usually it's not inadequate, it's usually improper collection because the sum of the ejaculate might be not, is maybe spilled over, right? It may not come into the container sometimes. So you may not have actually properly collected the semen. So that is probably one of the very common reasons for low volume ejaculate. And secondly, and as you said, all those other things, EDO and congenital absence, then hypogonadism, and all these are causes for low volume ejaculate. And then what about azoospermia? How do you diagnose azoospermia? If the semen analysis tells you that there is no sperm, is it okay, or you have to be more particular, or you have to ask the pathologist something else? Dr. Anand?
If there is no sperm in the ejaculate.
So in other words, what is cryptozoospermia?
Yes, sir. In
What
the
it is?
cryptozoospermia, there is usually there is in general survey there is no sperm visible, but with the extensive search, we can find few sperms, sir.
Extensive search means what?
With the high definition.
No.
That is what Dr. Shivame wants to ask you, that what would you ask your pathologist friend to do when they're processing the semen sample for azoospermia?
Before labeling the patient azoospermia.
Azoospermia.
Okay, we have various methods for semen, like this, like washing of the semen, like migration.
No.
Anand, you are going in the wrong direction.
Yes.
There
We're
are
just
no
asking,
various
we
methods.
just need to know one word from you.
So again, see, first of all, whenever you label the patient azoospermic, you should ask the pathologist that the semen should be centrifuged, right? And for 15 minutes, and the pellet should be examined for presence of sperms, right? Unless the pellet is azoospermic, you would not label the patient azoospermic, right? So this is very important before labeling any patient azoospermic. And as Dr. Pramod said, it makes a huge difference, because a cryptozoospermia is a totally different thing, and azoospermia would be totally different. The treatment would be actually totally different. So you should actually find out whether there are a few sperms present or not. That can only be seen when you do a centrifugation and you examine the pellet for presence of sperms, right? So Anand, it is very important before you label the patient azoospermic to examine in that way. Okay, so we have two semen samples, low volume ejaculate, azoospermic, alkaline, and again, because this is probably important in terms of like, what are the other things, semen characteristics that you find if a patient has a congenital abscess of vas difference or ejaculatory duct obstruction. So besides the low volume and azoospermia, what else would you find?
So there may be, sir, oligospermia. If there is a partial ejaculatory duct obstruction, we may find oligospermia, teratoasthenia, necrospermia, maybe there, sir, or
no. In a patient azoospermic sample, what else would you find? Anything regarding liquefaction, anything about pH, he has said, and the fructose he has already said. So liquefaction is again important because there will be no clotting enzyme, so that it will not clot. So it would be a liquefied semen always, right? So these are the usual characteristics of a semen if it is a case of EDO or a congenital absence of varus difference. Anyway, so what do you think now? How would you go ahead?
I would go with sir hormone analysis of this patient, sir, with
Okay.
FSH, LH.
Okay. Sandeep, show us the hormonal report.
Yes, sir. Sir, in hormone profile, so serum testosterone level is 600 nanogram per dl. Serum LH is 3.5 international unit per liter. Serum FSH is 7.4 milli international unit per ml, and serum prolactin level is 5 nanogram per ml.
So Anand, just go back. Yes. So this is the hormonal report. Do you find anything wrong with it?
No, sir, it is normal, sir.
It is not normal. Right.
Yeah. Anand, what other hormones you usually ask in infertility workup? Yes.
Sir, usually we ask about thyroid profiles, like what is the TSH level, or we may ask about estradiols, testosterone estradiol ratio should be more than 10 to 1, sir.
Yeah, thyroid profile is not a routine recommendation in hormone profile examination in men, but yes, in females that is the first thing that is done. But in men we do not ask it as a routine, right, Shivam sir?
Yes.
Yeah, and again, this hormonal evaluation is again a controversial thing. Many of them, they just do FSH and testosterone as the first line. But if you see the Campbell textbook, it does all these and also estradiol. Okay, so whatever you're saying, just say the reference, that should be fine. So you will not be held wrong if you're saying the other hormones or if you're saying less number of hormones. But yes, FSH and testosterone should be in the first line investigation.
Right. So rightly, as he said, estradiol also can be added if the patient supposes oligospermics are fertile. And then there is another 17-hydroxyprogesterone, as we were discussing in one of these guidelines also. So that is again one of the important hormones that can be examined in this.
And inhibin, some of them do
inhibin level, right. So, but if you say all these, then it is will suffice. Testosterone, LH, FSH, and prolactin, and estradiol. Yes, definitely.
Anand, if you're given an option of total testosterone versus bioavailable testosterone, which one would you prefer? Which one you feel is accurate? For of course, like example, if testosterone is in the borderline 290, total testosterone is in the borderline 290, 300. And if the bioavailable is around 200, so which one do you feel is good? I mean, which one do you want to consider before starting any hormonal treatment?
Anand?
Sir, I would like to go with, sir, bioavailable testosterone, sir, because there may be various conditions in which sex hormone binding estrogen may be altered, sir, like diabetes, nephrotic syndrome, liver disease, estradiol therapy, there are so many things. So I would like to go with bioavailable.
Okay, right. So if there is a testosterone is the borderline range, definitely you should go ahead with bioavailable. If it is normal, then probably you may not. So again, how do you measure the bioavailable testosterone? Anand?
So I have no idea, sir.
No idea. Okay. Don't say that. Okay.
So maybe we shouldn't blame them also, sir, because male infertility is hardly discussed in conferences and teaching programs.
Hardly discussed. But yeah, at least in my yes, go ahead, Pramod.
Yeah, so we basically use this online calculators to calculate the bioavailable testosterone. We need the SHBG levels, total testosterone, and the serum albumin levels. If we have these three things, we can do the online. There are so many online calculators. So that is how usually the bioavailable is calculated.
So anything else you want, Anand, besides hormonal profile?
Sir, I would like to go with trust, for this patient, sir.
Okay. You will go ahead straight away with trust. What do you think is in your mind?
Sir, in the clinical examinations, there is a sir.
Right. So yes, this is a low volume ejaculate.
What is
We
that,
have
sir?
excluded congenital. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead. There's some signal problem, it seems. Yes, Anand, go ahead.
We are losing him.
I will. Hello. I'm audible,
Go
sir?
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, there is angiospermic patient with low volume ejaculate and midline cystic structure is palpable. I would like to go with trust, sir.
Right. So you have excluded congenital absence of vas difference by your clinical examination. You have excluded hypogonadism by your hormonal profile, and you have excluded the improper collection by history, right? So now what is left is probably one of the ejaculatory duct obstruction, right? So, and then on finding also, you are finding a midline cyst. So you will go ahead with confirmation of this midline cyst. So transrectal ultrasound. Yes, Sandeep, go ahead with the transrectal ultrasound.
Yes, sir. Sir, in blood examination, all parameter was in normal limit.
No, fine. To go ahead with the
Yes.
transrectal. We don't want.
Yes, sir. In transrectal sonography, sir, bilateral seminal vesicles was dilated around 2.2 centimeter. Sir, well-defined cystic lesion near base of prostate of size 2.7 into 2.2 into 1.5 centimeter. Both ampulla and vas was dilated, and prostate is normal in size. Sir, in USG scrotum, right testis is approximately 4.3 into 2.1 centimeter, 21 cc of volume. Left testis is 4.5 into 2.1 centimeter, and 23 cc volume. Sir, a cystic lesion of 5.7 into 3.3 into 2.3 centimeter in the head of left epidermis, and also cystic lesion of 0.7 centimeter into 0.5 centimeter in right epidermis.
Do you have the pictures? Do you have the picture, better?
No, sir, I unable
Okay.
to get picture of
Okay,
USG.
fine.
So
Right.
Anand, what
So-
is abnormal dilatation of the seminal vesicles?
Sir, it is more than 1.5 centimeters, sir. Usually we took in the trust, sir, we usually took more than 1.5 centimeter, and for ejaculate duct, sir, it is more than 2.3 mm, sir.
2.3?
Sir, for the ejaculated duct, sir.
So as far as I know, I think it is 2.5 centimeters for the seminal vesicles, anterior-posterior diameter.
Pramod, I think it is 1.5 away. Amit, what do you say? 15 mm probably is that.
Even I feel it is 15 mm, but I'm not very sure about it. It's been too long.
It is 15 mm probably. And anyway, so yes, Pramod, go ahead. Any other comment? Yes.
Sir, again, this dilated seminal vesicles, again, it may not give a good picture sometimes, because there are two varieties of seminal vesicle involvement. If there is a fibrous seminal vesicles, even without dilatation, there can be obstruction. So if it is only a cystic variant, you will see all these large dilatations.
Right. So this appears like a cystic variant because you have a midline cyst also, and probably it is an ejaculatory duct cyst, or it may be a midline cyst compressing the ejaculatory duct, and then you have a dilatation of the ampulla and the vas also. So it looks like obstruction at the ejaculatory duct level. So yes, Anand, what do you think it is?
Sir, it looks like ejaculate duct obstruction, sir.
Okay.
And there is
right. So Amit, any comment?
Not really, sir.
Okay. So I think this is probably a clear-cut case of very typical ejaculatory duct obstruction with low volume ejaculate, azoospermic. So how would you go ahead, Anand?
Sir, I would like to counsel the patient about this ejaculated obstruction, and I will plan for, sir, confirmation, because we know that sensitivity and predictive value of trust is not so good. So we can use, sir, additional maneuvers in OT, sir.
No. What do you mean by sensitivity? And you can see a cystic dilatation of the in the prostate. You can see the dilated seminal vesicles, vast difference. So still you're doubting that those things, are you?
No, sir, I am not in doubtful condition, but
So don't say that. Don't say sensitivity specificity. So this is on trust. You are finding this these things. Now, how would you go ahead? Tell us.
Sir, I would like to counsel the patient about the ejaculatory duct obstruction, and we are planning for surgery, sir. For the surgery, I would like to counsel about the patient, about the procedure details, sir, anesthesia and position, sir. First of all, then
No,
complication
fine.
also.
We don't want this. Tell us exactly what would you do? What is that procedure?
TURED. I would like to go with TURED, transurethral resection of ejaculatory duct, sir.
Okay, fine. So now,
Sir,
as you
may
said,
I
counseling. So
interrupt?
this is
Sir,
yeah.
I'll just interrupt.
Amit, go ahead. Yes.
He was talking about counseling. So let's talk about the counseling. The
Right,
counseling which you were talking about is not the essential counseling which we are looking at in this discussion. Any particular point in counseling which you would tell your patient, which is
Right.
important when you before you embark on the treatment of this such kind of patient?
Exactly. Anand.
Yes, I
Yes.
would like to
Tell us
counsel.
what would you like? Yes.
I would like to counsel the patient about the ejaculated obstruction may be a cause of azoospermia, and after the surgery it may be improved or not, but pregnancy rate with this procedure is also low. So I would counsel about everything, and also counsel about cryopreservation and all other methods, sir.
Right. So you have been able to tell partially correctly. And what Dr. Amit was trying to say is that it is important that TURED, the success rate is not very high, first of all. Secondly, with 8 years of infertility, it may be that there may be a proximal obstruction now, because there may be some obstruction in the epididymis, or which may be causing azoospermia. So it is not necessary that resecting this cyst might help this patient. Thirdly, sometimes there is a transient kind of presence of sperms in the semen, and it may again block, and you may not have sperms later. That's why cryopreservation again is very important when you are doing EDO, this resection. And I think that is important. And sometimes the pregnancy rate may not be very high. Even if you get presence of sperms, it may not be that high that to have a spontaneous pregnancy. So all these things are very important in counseling. Yes. Any comment from Pramod and Amit? Yes, go ahead.
No, that's fine, sir. You're covered.
Fine. So Amit, Anand, how would you go ahead? So you would do a transurethral resection of ejaculatory duct. So how do you do a TURED?
So,
Any idea? Yes.
Yes, sir. I will, sir. I will, sir. With proper bowel preparation, antibiotic prophylaxis, and regional anesthesia, I would go with, sir, left lateral decompression position and go with the truss, sir. I will examine the cyst again, and with the help of spinal needle, I can aspirate the seminal vesicle and examine the semen, or I may use this semen for future cryopreservation, future pregnancy, sir. Then I will go with the lithotomy position and cystoscopy examination of the verumontanum to look for the opening of the utricles and ejaculatory ducts, sir. Or previous date, I can go with, sir, I can inject the dye, sir, like indigo carmine dye in the seminal vesicle, sir, with or without mixed to the contrast, sir, so that I can easily locate the opening of the ejaculatory duct, sir. Then,
How would you, just hold on. If you put a dye, which dye you would put?
sir, indigo carmine, if available.
Indigo carmine or methylene blue?
Methylene
Okay,
blue,
fine. So, and then how would you go ahead? Yes.
Then if I can find the opening of the ejaculatory duct, or there may be no opening, it may be open in the common cyst, sir. So then, sir, I would like to plan for resection, sir, of the cyst. If there is prostatic cyst, then unroofing is sufficient, sir. If there is midline utricle cyst, then we have to resect it, sir. Either maybe with the Collins knife, or maybe a resectoscope, or maybe laser, sir. Then I will, in the end, I can go with, sir, vesiculography, sir, by converting with the UKIT, sir, 5 French UKIT. I can go with vesiculography in the last, sir.
Okay. Any comments from Dr. Pramod and Dr. Aman?
So now regarding the dye, sir, for the sperms, only the indigo carmine is indicated, because methylene blue significantly affects the motility of the sperms. So even when we are doing a basal reconstruction, like a vasovasostomy or a vasoeperiodontostomy, also we use the indigo carmine only. So that is the preferred one. Rest of it, most of it he has covered.
Right. Anything else?
Not really.
Right. Right. So, Sandeep, any slide you have left?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead with your slide. Yes.
So there was a slide of
So anything
karyotyping
else
also.
was
Sir.
done?
There was a slide of karyotyping also. Why was that done?
Go back. Go back in the investigations.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. So in this patient, probably it is just to complete probably the investigations in a case of infertile male. So he has but particularly in this patient, probably karyotyping and Y chromosome microdeletion and CFTR and all these are not important. So Sandeep, you did not say about these were done in these patients,
Yes,
but yes, they may be done in a particular patient, in a select group of patients.
Yes.
This case is typically a case of ejaculatory duct obstruction, where you would not like to do a karyotyping or genetic testing.
Anand, question
Yes.
for you. In which particular patient would you get a CFTR gene analysis done? Which particular patient?
All the patients with CFTR mutation, almost 99% patient have, sir, bilateral congenital absence of vas deferens, sir. Or in the unilateral is around, sir, 40% has CFTR mutation, sir. So if there is bilateral absence of vas, we have to go with, sir, CFTR mutations.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Dr. Amit is trying to say is that karyotype and Y chromosome still you can substantiate in this case, but CFTR gene you cannot do in this patient. Even if the patient says, no, I have money, please do it, you still, this is not at all indicated.
Right. So CFTR,
Yes.
definitely, if you only have a bilateral absence of vas deferens, then you will do. And where will you do, in the male partner or female partner, Anand? The CFTR gene mutation is.
Autosomal recessive disease, sir. So male.
Now, is it done in male or female?
Male, sir.
It is done in both, right?
Both have to be tested.
Both
Because if the
parts.
female turns
Both
out
have
to
to
be
be
a carrier,
Yeah.
then there is almost 45 to 50% chance that a 25% chance that the offspring also may have this disease. So it should be tested in both.
Both, right? Anand, so this is important. Again, you said something about the unilateral absence of vas. So if you have a unilateral absence of vas, what else do you expect?
It
in
is
this
associated with
patient? Any other
80% time with
abnormality?
renal abnormalities. Maybe there's a renal atresia, renal horseshoe kidney.
Unilateral absence, ipsilateral absence of kidney. Yes. So that may be present if there is a one-sided vas present only, right? So in just a couple of days back, I don't know, yesterday only, we were discussing a case in the group which was a case where there was a large seminal vesicle cyst with ejaculatory duct obstruction with unilateral absence of kidney on that side. And this is a typical case of a syndrome. What is that, Anand?
Cystic fibrosis.
This is Zinner syndrome.
Zinner
Zinner syndrome. Z-I-N-N-E-R. Zinner syndrome, where you have this mesonephric duct abnormality. All right. So this results in unilateral absence of kidney and unilateral absence of vas, and this ejaculatory duct obstruction with a large, sometimes very large seminal vesicle cyst. And this is a typical counterpart of Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome in females. In females, you have Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome due to Mullerian duct abnormality, whereas in males, you have this for mesonephric duct abnormality. All right. So
our
again,
PGs had presented the same, I mean, a similar one, Zinner syndrome, 2 years back in the Bangalore Urology Society meeting. So similar case.
So yesterday only there was a case, somebody from our faculty only presented it. He had just found this case, and typical Zinner syndrome, right? Yes. So go ahead. So this is what, any other tests you have done? Sandeep, go ahead with your rest of your slides. Yes.
Patient had also having a report of MRI pelvis.
Again, probably MRI is not indicated if you have a truss which already shows everything. There is no point in doing an MRI. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
So this was the management which was done, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead. So it's not this MESA-TC is not alternatives to Tourette. If the Tourette doesn't work, then you have to go ahead with the sperm retrieval procedures, right?
Yes.
So don't say that this is an alternative, right?
Yes.
And don't say proximal vas difference as sperm aspiration. There's nothing like that, right? A seminal vesicle aspiration is a part of the transurethral dissection of ejaculatory ducts. Whenever you're doing a transurethral dissection, you first see the seminal vesicles, aspirate, see the presence of sperms, then inject the dye, and sometimes contrast also to see the obstruction site of obstruction also. So these are things which are done as a part of this procedure. Anything else? Next slide, please. I think that was the last slide, is it? Sandeep? Okay, Sandeep? I think he has lost his signal. Lost his signal. Okay. Sandeep, unshare your presentation as soon as you. So anything you want to add, Dr. Pramod and Dr. Amit, about this case, and anything? Yes. Dr. Amit and Dr. Pramod? Yes.
Pramod, you got it.
Yeah, it was okay. The discussion was fine, sir. I mean, I have nothing to add. Basically, the counseling part plays a major role. Because the first question in any infertility case I ask is what is your age and married life. Second question I ask is the female age in any fertility case. So if the female is around 38, 40 years, even if I see some SV dilatation, I just try to counsel them for surgical sperm retrieval and an IVF, because we need to be practical also. In any long-standing sperm abnormality due to long-standing obstruction, the results are not that good.
Right.
So try to convince for assisted reproductive techniques in such cases where if the female age is beyond 38, 40 years.
Right. So Anand, a very important point brought out. You need to be very particular about the couple's age, right? So if the couple is elderly, and then definitely you have to be very aggressive in the treatment. And if you think this is not going to work or this is not working, then definitely you should go ahead immediately with assisted reproductive technique, as Dr. Pramod said, because otherwise he may not, the partner may not be pregnant, because if once she loses all her ovarian reserve, she would not be helped by anything, right? So Amit, any comment from you?
And same thing, sir, like when you're counseling pre-operatively, you must tell them that in spite of the surgery, you may require IVF support subsequently, because it may not function, may not treat what we are trying to do.
All right. So just for the benefit of the residents and everybody, I have just a small video of the transurethral dissection of ejaculatory duct. So just will take a few minutes. So this is how you do a transrectal ultrasound. You do a seminal vesicles. You see the dilated seminal vesicles, and then you pass a needle through these dilated seminal vesicles and aspirate the sperms, semen, and just look for presence of sperms in the semen. And then you inject the dye, as you said, indigo carmine dye will be injected, and sometimes the contrast may be injected to see the site of obstruction. And then you do a cystourethropy. And here where you are doing a cystoscopy, where you see this verumontanum, which is quite a dilated verumontanum. And sometimes when you press on rectal examination, because the dye is already there, you will find some dye coming out through that stenotic orifice. So you would be able to know that this is the cysts, because cyst would not be, you may not be able to see on cystoscopy or urethropy. So once you resect this area, then you can go into the dilated ejaculatory duct. So there you see the methylene blue, or sometimes indigo carmine, as Dr. Pramod said, should be given. And then you can enter into this ejaculatory duct. So it should be properly resected so as to marsupialize the whole cyst. All right. And then you can do a vesiculography. You can put a ureteric catheter into the ejaculatory duct, and then do a seminal vesiculography and see the whole, that you don't have any obstruction in the proximal area, at least in the vesicles or vas deferens. So this is the way that you do. That was a small video on it.
Lovely video, sir.
Thank you. So anybody else has any other thing to ask or comment on? Any resident and residents from Dr. Pramod's side also, and any faculty members?
Sir, I think Deepak Sharma has posted a question in the chat box.
Okay.
He has asked, saying that any role of anti-sperm antibodies in the workup for such a case. My answer to that is the real indication for doing an anti-sperm antibody is after a vasectomy. That is the only real indication now. A patient who has undergone a vasectomy, you decide whether to do whether the reconstruction will help or not. You do an anti-sperm antibody, and if there are more than 60 to 70% of the antibodies attached to the sperm head, then the vasectomy reversal may not help. Instead, you might counsel them for the ART. So that is the real indication for doing an anti-sperm antibody. But in this case, there is no role of anti-sperm antibody.
Yeah, I think so. But again, when this Dr. Deepak has asked, I'm just thinking over it, that can long-standing ejaculatory duct obstruction can also produce anti-sperm antibodies. As vasal obstruction can produce anti-sperm antibodies, can a long-standing ejaculatory duct obstruction also produce anti-sperm antibodies? I think we should think over it, and whether this could be there also. Yes. And then there was a question from Dr. Prashant that, yes, it is important to take a proper sexual history, very important, whether the marriage has been consummated or not, whether they have been able to have a penovaginal penetration intercourse properly or not. Again, in any evaluation of infertile couple, you should be very particular about the fertility cycle also, whether the knowledge of fertility cycle is there or not. Yes, so all these things are important during history taking. And any role of MRI in this patient? Yes, because as I said, trust, if tells you about the cystic lesion, etc., then there's no need of any MRI in this patient. I think that was all. And any of the residents or any faculty has anything else? Otherwise, we will wind up the session. I think if there is no any questions, so I would again, Dr. Ajay,
Yes, sir.
moderator,
Yeah.
I will just ask him to give vote of thanks to our invitees. Please
sir.
go ahead.
Good evening. I would like to thank Dr. Pramod sir and Amit Agrawal sir for improving our valuable times and giving us previous knowledge in field of male infertility. We will surely use this in our clinical practice, and I think outcome will be improved. Thanks, sir. Good night.
So thank you once again. Thanks, Pramod.
sir.
Thanks, Dr. Amit. Thanks all the residents from your side who have joined us, and any other viewer who has joined from other parts of our country, besides the residents from our department and faculty from department. So thank you very much once again, and good night.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.